holding on to the past is not hurting anybody else. It's not. You holding on to the past and rethinking things and replaying things over, it's not like you're sitting in a office and you guys are all discussing this. No, this is stuff that you're replaying in your head. And until you can focus on two things, one is always going to be acceptance. Radical acceptance or acceptance. Radical acceptance means it is what it is and you got to accept it. And there is no magic pill to it. Everybody goes, well, how do I accept it? You drop your ego. You drop your ego. You accept that regardless of how much you want the past to be different or you want somebody to take accountability, it doesn't have to happen for you to heal. It just doesn't. And that's the acceptance piece of it. Number one, you have to accept that the past is done and over, no matter what has been done on your part, no matter what has been done on the other person's part. So number one is acceptance. Number two is going to be mindfulness and staying in the present space. If you are new here, I'm a mindful expert. I have almost 95,000 hours in teaching and utilizing mindfulness. And it literally has saved my sanity and it definitely saved my life. And so you have to understand that I think some of what and by the way, I also have that ego death series and I will attach it over here somewhere along the journey of this video. And you'll be able to click on the entire playlist of the ego death series, right? But it's imperative that you allow yourself to feel the feeling. See, the problem is that you think that by holding the resentment of the past or of something that has happened, that somehow or another you are winning and you are not. You're not winning anything. You're playing a game that no one knows you're playing. And you're in competition with no one but yourself. Now, what happens, because this does happen, what happens if you're around family or friends or somebody and they're always bringing up the past? Well, you did this, not even about you, just always living in the past, always doom and gloom. We know that that's also victim mentality, right? So they're living there. You can literally say, I'm here today and I'm uncomfortable rehashing this over and over again. Like, it doesn't matter how they respond to it. This is the part that you got to understand with boundaries. Boundaries are not for everybody to be like, oh my God, okay, you're right, my bad. No, that's just not going to happen. And you're allowed to say, because what's going to happen is until you, and I had a podcast on my Patreon on conflict avoidance. Like just because you avoid conflict doesn't mean that this big gray elephant disappears. It stands there and you kind of look around it and you're like, oh my God, I don't see the gray elephant anywhere. It's still there, whether you put it under a carpet or not. So until you're willing and able, and when I say able, you have to allow yourself to be uncomfortable because there is no space for comfortability while you're going through this. You're going to have to go through the discomfort until you're not. Once you do it, you're going to get much more comfortable. I have zero problems now if I'm uncomfortable with something, say, hey, I'm really uncomfortable with this conversation. And like, I'm not going to engage in this anymore, right? Because I'm protecting my peace and I'm actually protecting the other person in many ways too. Because if you allow your emotions to get heightened, you allow yourself to be in a space of an emotional outburst or an emotional response, nobody is winning, right? Nobody's winning. Because imagine this, somebody's talking to you and you have an ego, you haven't dropped your ego yet. And they say, well, like, I don't think you're really good at whatever it is. After immediately you're activated. So you're like, oh my God, I'm activated. Like, what do they mean? It doesn't matter what else they're saying. Doesn't matter if they have the holy grail of life. You are just waiting to jump in and defend yourself. You got to stop doing that. And that's part of this whole living in the past situation. You are only harming yourself when you're sitting in bed. And I mean, it doesn't even have to be past, like childhood past. It could be, my boyfriend broke up with me 3 weeks ago. And here I am going through Snapchat and what are they doing? First of all, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Listen, closure happens the moment it's over. What the closure you want to make yourself feel better. You want to feel better about it. Well, that's not always going to work. And you're not always going to get the closure that you seek because closure happens the moment something is done. That is closure. Well, I didn't get the closure. No, you didn't get the closure you wanted because there's unanswered questions. You're going to have to get used to that. And that's radical acceptance. So you have to allow yourself to feel your feelings, but accept that. And I don't care who you are, what you are, how much money you have, how amazing you are. You're not getting that time back. It's never coming back. Ever, never, ever. So to obsess on it is not only not hurting the other person, it's harming you. You're the one that's staying up at 2 o'clock in the morning and trying to figure out why. Like, why did that happen? Like, okay, so now you're trying to figure out somebody's motives. Then you start projecting your own vision on what you think their motive was. And you're not them. So you're staying up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You're avoiding getting into another relationship. You're avoiding working on yourself because you're too busy blaming other people. And by doing that, who's getting harmed? You are. For you to be like, well, I'm not going to talk to my dad then. Fine, I'm not talking. Okay. Guess what? A lot of people don't care that you're mad at them. I mean, it's a fact, especially if they don't feel they did anything wrong, because you being disrespected and feeling disrespected, two different things. So if you are in, like, say, an entitlement phase and you haven't healed your traumas and stuff, you may feel entitled that somebody owes you something. And so you're mad at somebody because it didn't work the way you wanted it to. Well, they're not going to apologize to you because they didn't do anything wrong. So just because you feel some kind of way doesn't mean that you going, I'm not talking to you anymore, which is ego, by the way. I'm not talking to you anymore, right? They are nowhere going, oh my God, they're not talking to me. See, you might feel that way. You might, if you're in a people-pleasing state, you will feel that way. You'll be like, oh my God, why are they mad at me? You think everybody's mad at you anyway, right? Not everybody is there, right? Because everybody understands, especially when you have reached a certain level of the emotional maturity, that people have a right to feel how they feel. And it's not for you to judge it, but they also don't have to make you feel better. And so by rehashing and living in this space of the past, right, you're not here. So that goes in. So that was the acceptance phase of all that. Mindfulness phase of it is, it doesn't matter how much you dwell on it. It doesn't matter how much you worry about tomorrow, much less the past. Only thing that is happening is this moment in time. Time is linear and it only exists right now. I mean, that's a fact. Your memories, right? I've had clients where two people of a sibling family were raised in the exact same house, the exact same way, and had two different ideas of their family life. One thought it was awful, one thought it was amazing, and nope, nobody was favored. Well, who's right, who's wrong? They're both right for themselves. What they don't get to do is be like, well, what's wrong with you? What do you mean? What do you mean? Our childhood was great. No, it wasn't. It was awful. Like, why are we debating here? Your feeling on something is accurate to you. But remember, your emotion does not exist outside of your consciousness. Your emotion, so really hear that. So mindfulness has to be right now because your emotion does not exist outside of your consciousness. Right? Like, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, your emotions aren't like floating around the sky. People aren't like, oh my God, there goes their upsetness. Oh my God, there goes their sadness. Like, nobody is doing that. Your emotions go with you. They don't exist outside of you. So that's why it's important to process it. And the more you try to worry about, well, why did this person do this? The more you may never get the answer. And even if you do get the answer, you're not going to like it. Right? Because I've said this before. If you say to somebody, well, why aren't you coming? All right. And if somebody does give you their explanation and they go, well, you've been really negative lately. You've been really negative. And honestly, I'm not trying to spend a Saturday hearing you bitching and complaining. Are you going to be like, oh, you're right, my bad? Or are you now going to get offended and you're now going to get your feelings hurt? Now you're going to be like, well, don't they understand what I'm going through? Now we have, no. So you don't always need to know the why, because be careful what you ask for, because you might get the why and you might not like it. And then you're going to debate their why, but their why is accurate to them, right? We know people don't want to be around negative people all the time, right? I got it. I know that. We all know that. So you may know that and you may be like, oh my God, is it me? But sometimes it's not you at all. So stop dwelling on the past and thinking it's all you, because sometimes it's something they're going through. But regardless of the fact, if there's something that you've done, you take the lesson, anything that you've taken accountability. Stop trying to hold everybody else's feet to the flame and be accountable. What about your accountability? You take that, you move it now, present day, work on your shortcomings and challenges, because we all have them, to benefit everybody, including mostly yourself, going forward. But to live here, you're not hurting anyone but yourself. All right. So there is no magic pill. You have to process it. That's why those 5 journals, the 5 journals is relevant. The 5 journals have to happen, right? You got to process your stuff. Stop looking for everybody else to process it for you or to make it easier for you or to be a fast fix or anything like that. It just isn't going to happen that way. So when you're sitting in that space and you start, and it's okay, sometimes you got to go back so you can understand what you're healing, right? If you do a session with me, we're always going to go back so we can see where the roots are and we're going to heal it. That's all. We're just going to heal it there. Okay. So you have to be in that space of acceptance. Now, ask yourself, why are you refusing to accept that things are as they are and from the past? Why? Why? Because your lack of acceptance isn't going to change anything at all. It's just going to make it 10 times worse for you.